This is the Ring of Honor, a.k.a. Shane T, boy, the baddest champion you ever seen, boy.
This is Mr. Anderson.
This is good old JR Jim Rock, and you are listening.
You're listening to Knockouts and 3 Counts.
Cover! We got the new world champion!
That might be one of the craziest knockouts I've ever seen in my life.
Knockouts and 3 Counts is the podcast, baby! It's the real deal, baby!
Knockouts and 3 Counts starts now.
What up, no? It's another Tuesday. I'm still breathing. Fuck the mail. We're here for another episode of Knockouts and 3 Counts. And we have the return of our buddy Donnie, the real deal Ballou, who is going to be going to war this Friday for LFA on UFC Fight Pass. So,
Yes,
first of all, how's things been since the last time we talked to you? It's been a little hot minute.
It's been a while, man. Yeah. Nothing really changes, right? Just working, training, waiting for my shot.
I can totally relate to that.
Here it is. Finally got that shot I've been waiting on.
Well, let's talk about that, though. You know, you've said before we went on the air that this is going to be, the biggest fight of your career. Tell me a little bit about what went into LFA and what are your thoughts on the matchup and just working with this promotion?
Well, I've been trying to get into LFA for quite some time now. I've had a few different offers from them, but they've all come, last minute. And, our conversation with them was, hey, give us like 3 weeks, give us a month, right? Give us a heads up. So he gave us about a month, and here we are. Everything's been pretty smooth, though. So.
Okay, so to go with that, my question is, you say everything's going smooth, which is great to hear. But with it being a short notice fight like that, do you feel like they're bringing you in for this kid that they're fighting because you got the guy that you're fighting's only got 4 fights, the kid's undefeated at 4-0. You've got a wealth of experience against him. I mean, what are your thoughts on this matchup as you go into the fight, and what do you think is going to make you difficult for this kid?
I definitely think that he's probably more. I wouldn't say they're probably feeding me. They're not trying to feed me. He's definitely more like the golden child, right? He's fought for them before. He knows what LFA is like. They're familiar with him. I think he's fought for LFA, 3 times maybe? Like you said, he's undefeated, right? But he has not fought me. He has not fought nobody with the experience I have, the strength, the length, the speed, nothing. I match up well. No matter where it goes, I feel like I'm going to weather the storm. Him being so young, right? And, getting a lot of his finishes the way he does, he's going to realize he can't finish me real quick. And now he's in for a fight. So everybody's got a game plan so you get punched in the face.
Yeah. One of my favorite sayings and most true sayings of all time.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Well, one of the questions I was actually going to ask you was what it was like to get the feeling when you finally got that call that you said you had been waiting on. But you had just said there that you had kind of already said, like, hey, I need more notice than that. So what was it like not only getting the call to actually on the schedule that worked for you, but what was it like telling him no the first time?
And I did the first time, it was like, oh man, I might not get over my shot again. And then it happens again, right? And then it happens again. You say, hey, I need like 3 weeks. And then all of a sudden they give you like 3.5, 4. And you're like, well, if I tell them no, I might not ever get my shot again, right? So, that was the conversation between my manager and I and my coach. If we turn them down, you're right, they might not circle back around to me, right? So, here it is. It's time to.
So, out of the matchups they offered you, how do you feel about this matchup as opposed to the previous ones they offered?
I can't remember the opponents very well. I don't think they were undefeated at the time the other ones were. But at this point on this stage, like, it doesn't matter, right?
Yep.
I'd prefer going on to this stage of a promotion and fighting somebody really good. It's never been beaten before. Because if I just go on there, yeah, I get on UFC Fight Pass, I get in front of the right people, and I beat a turd, like, what does that do for me? It does nothing for me. Now, if I walk in there, take out their guy who's undefeated, who's already fought for them before, who he's fighting for, a ranked spot in LFA to get his chance at the belt, and I take him out, oh, man, sign me up. Bring me back. Knock, knock. Time to wake up. right? Like, here I am. That's what I want to do. I want to do something that nobody's done before. And that starts with taking away his O.
Okay.
I like it, man. My question for you is, in a lot of situations like this, when you're taking a fight on short notice, and now that we are able to have, fans back in the arena, what are your thoughts on, like you said, this kid, maybe still has more way to go, but they're building him up like the golden boy, for this fight. What are your thoughts on as far as, a hostile crowd, things like that? What do you think about as far as reactions and stuff that way with it being a bigger stage?
All good, man. It's, coming from where I did, right? Wrestling, right? Wrestling trains you for that, man. I mean, you go into all kinds of hostile territories and different schools, and right. I've been doing that stuff my whole life, man. It's nothing new. I actually perform better away from my hometown because there's no distractions, right? I'm walking out and I got my eyes on one thing. That's that cage and him. Everything else is just background noise. That's all that matters.
I like it. And all of you guys who are just coming in, welcome. We appreciate you. Leave some comments in the comments. If you got any questions for Donnie or any of that, we will ask him on the show. Or if you haven't done so, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe button, all them shit so you don't miss anything, because this isn't going to be the only installment you're going to see from us. This Thursday, we're live with Bobby Nash before he goes and takes that XFC welterweight strap. So, like I said, it's going to be a busy week for us, man. That brings up a good question too. You mentioned your management and things like that. Shout out to Liam from Cage Side Management. What are your thoughts on, do you feel like it was a little bit harder with maybe having, you see a lot of guys are signed to places like Iridium or Sucker Punch or whatever. Do you feel like, having a guy like Liam who's on his way up as far as the management game, do you feel like that plays any role in getting to a fight like LFA, or do you think it's just a matter of getting the right shot, right lineup, kind of deal like that?
I just you can go to a really large management, but are you gonna get the the attention or the connection or the relationship that you get with somebody like Liam and Cage Side? Yeah, they're growing still, but right. If I go to somewhere else that's much larger, like, I'm just another person. You know what I mean? Like, You really feel like you don't get that connection or that friendship that you get with someone like Liam. Like, I'm very grateful that I found Liam in Cage Side. He's been to multiple of my fights, right? And he's not, like I said, they're not even like this big money making, management, right? You get the feeling from them that they genuinely care about their fighters, man. Whereas these other places, I know, I'm not saying they're all like that, but there's places like that you're just another body, man. They'll put you in there to get killed with anybody.
Yeah.
And that's why I asked that, because, you see, like you said, this is the third time LFA circled back around to you, for you to have a fight. It's sometimes you wonder if in MMA or the fight game, if it's who more so versus what you're doing in the cage. And it's cool to see because, like you said, if you're in a big stable, whatever you want to call it, management company, whatever, like you said, when you've got places that have got multiple UFC and this guy and this guy and this guy all signed up, I mean, it takes some of the spotlight off for you. So I kind of wanted to, that's exactly what I was trying to highlight, in that, it's a good situation for you in that you're getting more, one-on-one, attention to your career. But we've talked a lot about your fight. We're going to talk a little more about your fight, but I kind of want to get your thoughts and opinions. And any of you guys who are watching this, feel free to let me know what you got in the comments, because I ain't scared. My question for you is, did you watch the Sandhagen Dillashaw card last weekend?
I didn't watch it live. I went back and watched a lot of the highlights and stuff, though. That, and then the Phillips and how do you pronounce his name? Pavia? I really like that fight. That was a great fight. But the Sandhagen fight, with TJ coming back the way he did, I think Sandhagen hasn't reached his ceiling yet. He's going to get better. I think that's a fight you could run back. Again, that fight could have went either way. You could run that fight back at 6 months from now. And I think Sandhagen could run away with it, to be completely honest with you.
So here's my thing. Corey and I were torn, right? Because Corey was all pissed and of the ilk that Sandhagen won, which I can see that too. But what I've been arguing this whole time, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, having watched the fight. So here's my thing. Do I think that Sandhagen landed the more impactful shots and, rocked TJ shit a few times? Yeah, I do. It's hard not to say he didn't when he had a hole in his eyebrow. But, I mean, when you got a hole in the eyebrow, they just don't magically poke out. And if you got problems like that, you got a whole nother kind of problem. That's like Cyclops. But, here's my thing, dude. For me, although I definitely kind of thought Sandhagen won, I also I remember telling Corey this right after the fight. I said, dude, I don't know. He had control of him, even if it was just holding on to his back. And with what we've talked about before in the need for reform of MMA, MMA judging and things, I think this is another example because it wasn't the only fight on that card that had a lot of, controversy on it, number one. And number two, this as well as I do, having been in a gym for years. What do they always tell you? The only way to stop that is keeping it out of the hands of the judges. Unfortunately, that's something that's pounded into your head from the time you start, even in jiu-jitsu tournaments, because you never know how they're going to, tally up points and all that kind of stuff. So in this one, like I said, I think TJ did enough to win, but I think you could definitely say Sandhagen won. I don't know where do you guys think Sandhagen goes from here?
In my opinion, I don't think Sandhagen slips much at all. I think he stays right.
I don't either. I don't think it's a bad loss at all because he looked great. No. I'm just saying, who do you give him next, though, now that pretty much just took him out of the number one contender spot?
Perfect fight, Rob Font. Him versus Rob Font.
Yeah.
Rob Font's what, number 3 right now or number 4?
I'm not mad at that. Liam actually is chiming in the comments. He said he thinks Sandhagen beat Dillashaw.
Yeah.
And you know what makes a big difference? And TJ already has that respect. You know what I mean? He's got it. When you're the GOAT, you're going to get those close calls. Sometimes it's just the way it is, right? But the thing is, even when TJ gets rocked, he comes forward. He has that cage aggressiveness. And a lot of times that can go a long way depending on the judges, He get rocked, okay, but does he stumble back and fall? No, he keeps coming forward, right? He keeps coming. He keeps putting the pressure on. I think that's what wins TJ that fight.
And the thing is, if you look at Sandhagen's if you look at his Sandhagen's social media and stuff, here's the thing. Even Sandhagen said out of his own mouth, he said, I think that I won the fight. I landed the better shots, but he goes, I should never have allowed him to be on my back for that long during those rounds, and him being able to get the couple takedowns he got. He was like, I guess I can see where they said that, but he himself said he never allowed that to happen. But he even realized that even though TJ may not have been doing the biggest damage, he was still controlling the pace of how some things were going. Liam back in the comments, he said, okay, no, he said I'm beating both of them bums. Shit, guy. We'll have to see what's up at XFC 45 here in a couple weeks, man. I'll see you at the press conference, homeboy.
Well, in all seriousness, though, what would you do to implement to make any type of change in the judging? Would you kind of keep it the same system it is? Would you add half points to make it, potential half point rounds, or would you make it 100-point system? What would you implement to kind of change the landscape of these close but not close decisions? I'm glad you brought up the Phillips Paiva fight, because that's a perfect example. It should have clearly been a 10-8 in that first round. Night and day. Dude was almost asleep. It could have been finished 2 or 3 times in that round. And yet, because he was able to edge out the other 2 rounds, he won the decision. It's weird to me. I understand the whole round basis. I've been watching MMA for long enough. At this point, though, I kind of almost lean more towards the pride system, to be honest with you, judging a fight as a whole. But what's your thoughts? I've rambled enough.
I think that the scorecards should go on a board or something, in between rounds, so you can see the scorecard.
They do that in boxing. I don't know why they can't do it in MMA.
Yeah.
Have you seen them in when they do them for Invicta and stuff like that?
I have not. No.
No.
I mean, just imagine how many more people would come out and not play it safe if they knew it was closer.
Oh, of course. If you already know they're judging it that you're down, you got one choice: either you're gonna balls out and throw some punches, or choke somebody, or you got a problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think it solves that problem, and then it solves the problem of people getting 10-8 rounds and then laying down in the second or third round. Maybe not laying down, but like taking a break or taking a step back. Right? I think it's a win-win for the promotion, for the fans, and for the fighters.
Yeah,
I completely agree. I think that's one of the few ways you could do it. But here's the other thing, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I've said for years, I believe that there needs to be more criteria to what you have to be able to do to be a judge too. Like, I'm not saying they got to be ex-fighters, but like, I feel like they should have some kind of base knowledge of like MMA of some sort. You know what I mean? Because some of these people, man, like the crazy thing is Adelaide Bird, for example, that's somebody that's name comes up a lot when it comes to, you know, judging and stuff like that. They fuck it up in boxing, and then you bring them into MMA. Like, dude, I don't know. I think the criteria needs to change. Number one, I think, and the qualifications of what you have to do to be a judge need to change. But
yeah, definitely, you should have to go through some kind of like training or schooling or something more extensive than just saying, hey, so and so is going to be a judge, or somebody getting voted in to be a judge or something, right? You have to meet some kind of qualifications, and like you said, maybe even like take a class where you're actually judging fights, right? Like where you actually judging fights and you have like a mentor or something.
It'd be really hard to implement, but I actually heard the point brought up the other day. Because of the fact that every state has their own commission is why it would be hard to implement. But if they did a MMA card that was scoring based on the verdict cards that come out. I don't know if you guys are both familiar with the verdict cards that come out, but those are all fan-based and all driven on who votes for what. I mean, honestly, that'll lead to a lot of like Conor getting rounds that he shouldn't and shit like that. But I feel like that'll give a more clear example of a broader spectrum of people and what their thoughts are.
All right. Here's my issue with that. If you're saying that you're going to leave it to where it goes off like a fan vote, here's why, to me, that's not a good idea. You do that. How many times do you go to a Buffalo Wild Wings or a local MMA fight or a whatever to watch fights, and you got the dumbasses that got no clue what the hell they're talking about, and now you're saying it's going to be up to them to choose whether or not people won? In that case, basically what you just said is, if you make him more bloody than the other guy, you won the fight. That's what's going to happen. I don't think that'll work for that reason, because even fans don't know enough really to be commenting on it a lot of the time.
But now you feel like some of the judges are doing that, right?
That's where, you know, I feel like, honestly, it seems.
But that's why I think the criteria needs to change. You know what I mean? That's why where I'm coming from with that, because then, like you just said, your only other option is for it to be judged, you know, based upon, you know, basically crowd applause or whatever the crowd, you know, says. And like I said, that's going to be almost as bad or a worse problem if you go that route. At least if you train them more. You know what I mean? Like, you might have a little bit more competency when it comes to, you know, the things that really determine a fight.
You should have to fight to be a judge. You should have at least like 5 pro fights. You should at least get in there and get your face punched a time or two to understand it.
There should at least be like, let them have some kind of test to where you have to do like so many hours of jiu-jitsu, so many, whatever it is, whatever you divvy it up to, you know. But like I said, I don't know. We've said it for years. There needs to be a change as far as gloves and stuff. And while we're talking about changing gloves, did you see Paige Van Zandt versus Ostovich?
No.
What do you, man? I gotta admit, first of all, that fight was better than I expected to be. First of all,
significantly.
Second of all, Rachel Ostovich gave no fucks at all. And was in Paige's face the whole whole time. Not mad at all that she won. What are your thoughts on some of these people that are making the jump over to like bare knuckle and stuff? Is that something that you'd ever be interested in? And what do you think the biggest differences are for you guys between bare knuckle and MMA?
Man, I feel like bare knuckle, you're asking to get hurt. I mean, I've got nothing against it. I just don't have that edge to me to go out and do that, man. I mean, you're breaking hands, people's faces. I mean, that's a different sport, man. I wouldn't even put that in the MMA category. I mean, that's pretty brutal. It's not something I would ever do for sure. No, I mean, the money would have to be right. If the money was right, I might do it once.
Well, and that's what they're talking about. They backed up the Brinks truck. They backed up the Brinks truck for Paige Van Zandt.
That's the only way I'm doing that, man. Other than that, I'm not. I mean, you got to be a different kind of fighter to be able to do something like that.
Have you watched any of the events?
I've seen some of it, yeah. I mean, it's brutal, man. I mean, that is just. Well, you got to have an edge to you, man. Like a different edge.
I feel like there's two kinds of fights, right? There's people that go in there strategically and don't take the damage, like you're saying, and then there's people that
more
go
brawlers
in there,
too.
Yeah, and that they're honestly, of course, because they're trying to put on a show, they're looking to sign more of those brawlers, of course. But the more guys that they do get in there that are making it a sport, I'm truly impressed with what they're doing. I really think in another 5-10 years they're going to be a promotion like really worth noting. Like, I think they're going to have complete podcasts and stuff breaking their stuff down because it really is. I feel like they've stepped their game up so much, and I think they're only in their 20th event. So I'm really surprised with what they're doing. They've got me as a subscriber up to this point, put it that way. So, and I'm happily paying my $3.99 a month to watch their watch the chaos that ensues.
To watch people beat each other to death.
Well, dude, here's the thing. If nothing else, it's got hype around it, and they're getting a lot of people talking about doing it. Hell, there was talk it's supposed to be Hector Lombard versus who was it that he got into it with?
T Wood.
Yeah, they're proposing a fight in bare knuckle between Lombard and T Wood. I mean, if you saw Paige's hands after the fight, bro.
Recently?
Huh?
What'd you say?
Who was that video that went viral recently of Woodley with Hector? Is it
yeah,
Hector?
that's with Hector. That's what he was referring to.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Who do you got in that fight, dude? If they ever fight bare knuckle, who do you got in that fight?
Not Woodley.
I gotta see how Woodley does in this boxing bout before I even comment. But I've seen how Hector Lombard does in bare knuckle, and he's their champ currently. So
yeah, I don't think Woodley has got the umph in him that he used to have anymore. So I think he lost a little more than what he wishes he would have. So
a very valid point.
I'm hoping that he somehow like answers the bell in this boxing bout and just makes the MMA world all right again, you know. But we'll see. I'm sure
I hope so, man. But
it'll happen. I'm sure.
Oh, it's going. But dude, that was the other point I was going to bring up, right? So like, and I want to get your thoughts on this. And I'm going to pose it to you in two different scenarios. So since we're on the topic of bare knuckle FC, you know, they've had all the, you know, there's been all these celebrity boxing matches and all this kind of shit. Well, on that card, they had this rapper Blueface versus some TikTok kid, and the rapper guy beat him up, and then somehow some guy that's smaller than, dude, this guy might be what the weight you're fighting at, maybe, and the guy works his way through security, gets in the ring, and then punches the rapper in the face.
Oh my god!
Like how do you let a guy get through? Then not one of you security guards didn't, like, not a one of you. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think bare knuckle is good for like combat sports, or do you think like it brings a bad light at all to like MMA, especially with so many guys like Thiago Alves as their champion? You know, you got Hector Lombard as one of their champions. You got Paige Van Zandt that went over there. Ostovich went over there. You got Beck Rawlings over there. Like, what are your thoughts on like some of the stuff that's going on with that? Do you think in 2021 people really will open up fully to bare knuckle?
Yeah, like you said earlier, I think it's gonna evolve too, right? I don't think it's a bad light for the sport. I think it's only going to get better. It's only going to evolve more. There are going to be more guidelines, and people are going to start taking it more serious. Unfortunately, people are always going to do the celebrity fights and finding a way to make a quick buck, and promotions aren't going to say no, right? Because those are the people that bring the views and bring some money in. So I think no matter what you do, you're always going to have that. But I think bare knuckle is just going to continue to evolve, and I think it'll get bigger. Just like you said, I think in a couple of years from now, they're going to be somebody that's recognizable. So I like Hector Lombardi too. I like him. I like them.
Well, dude, Hector Lombard's a dog, dude. Like, I mean, Hector Lombard's a dog, dude. There's no real argument for that. Let me ask you this. So have you gotten to fight back with fans since pandemic? Your last fight had fans, right?
Yes. Yeah, last fight had fans. Yep.
So how do you feel about that, man? Like, do you feel like it's any harder for you to fight with no fans or anything like that? Or because I mean, LFA is finally starting to get people back in the arena and stuff like that. Do you think not having like the energy of the fans like that would screw you up in a fight?
No, not at all, man. I think it takes some of the pressure off of you, right? I mean, people go out and they get these big crowds there, and you don't want to lose in front of your fans or your family or all the people you have there. You take the fans out, man, it's just a sparring session. That's all it is. You sparring with a guy around your weight in the gym. That's all it is.
That's an interesting thought process on that. I had watched a lot with Dustin Poirier and his thought process going into the counter fight, and he said he wished that pay-per-view would have took place in the Apex so there wouldn't have been fans. He said, I wish they would have all been home buying the pay-per-view instead of being here.
Yeah, it takes some of the anxiety out of it,
Yeah.
It's not like you said, it just feels like you're sparring at the gym, but you're at a different place. No fans, nobody yelling, nobody screaming. You don't hear 1,000 voices, right? It's you and your coach and a sparring session. That's it.
I like it, man, and that's why I asked that question, because as we go back into crowds and all those kind of things, man, the fans bring a certain energy to it, but at the same time, it's like doing that with no fans. I feel like you just said, would take a lot. Not only would take pressure off, you also got to take into effect there that it's like I feel like things would run a lot smoother. Because you don't have as much bullshit with it. But speaking about rules and regulations, I gotta ask you guys' opinion on this. So we mentioned the Tj Dillashaw fight. Like I said, I could see where Sandhagen won, but I also am not mad at TJ, getting the nod in that fight either. But here's my question: what are your thoughts as a fighter on the punishment for PEDs and stuff? Because I was listening to something earlier. They said that MMA by far has the longest suspension for PEDs of any kind out of any sport. They said that it takes 4 times in the NBA to get the same equivalent to what you get in MMA. And they went down the line with like NHL, NFL, all that stuff. And it was astounding to hear that, like, when you think about it, in fights, you're only going to fight 1 or 2 times a year, unless you're a guy who's trying to get, a bunch of fights in, versus, where in football, basketball, baseball, you'll get like a 6-game suspension, an 8-game suspension, whatever, and then you're right back in there. So what are your thoughts on the punishment that TJ got? And do you think that now that he's, done the time, do you think fans need to get over it and move on?
Yeah, I think so, man. I think there's a reasoning behind a lot of people that take these things too. I mean, I think a lot of people take it too, just because, as you get older, these recovering's not easier, getting into shape's not as easier, some going into the gym, like your energy level's lower. I think everybody's doing whatever they can to get an extra edge and to continue to fight that long. I mean, MMA is brutal on your body, man. It's worse than any other sport there is. Like, it's brutal. Same with football. Football, you ever been down like next to the sideline in an NFL game? That's pretty violent. It's pretty violent. Yeah. You get 2 350-pound guys smashing into each other. I mean, it's hard on your body. You know, a lot of these athletes are taking these PEDs, you know, to help heal and just to get that extra edge. You know, I think it's I think they're being a little strict. UFC is with the Dillashaw thing. I think 2 years is a little much. You ask me. That's just my opinion, though.
That's why I wanted to ask, because like I said, man, I'm somebody, especially in fighting, I feel like fighting more so than most other sports, PEDs would affect that. But at the same time, like you said, at a certain point, because like when you think about it, you know, you had John Jones got popped. You've had how many guys get popped?
A lot.
You know what I mean? And like big name guys. So it's like you wonder, like you said, TJ, and again, he did the crime. I'm not by any means saying, I've said it multiple times on this show, I hate when people use steroids in fighting because I feel like it affects the outcome more than any other sport. But that being said, you know, you see these fans where it's like, oh no, he shouldn't get in and, you know, this, that, and the other. It's like, well, dude, let's not forget that the guy was world champion when he left and he just beat the guy who was basically the number one contender. So, I mean, but now the question's going to be, we got to see where he goes out of this because he just had surgery on his knee.
Yeah.
Man.
So
He did have surgery?
yeah, he had it this morning.
What did he post?
He had like a partial tear of his LCL, and I forgot what the other one was, but he had a partial tear of that and a partial tear there. So that's the other question I got for you. There's a lot of talk about what's going on as far as Usman Colby getting brought back up. What are your thoughts on that fight? And do you agree with the general consensus that if Usman beats Colby, there's really not much left for him at 170?
I can agree with that. I mean, time and time again, I'm not gonna lie. Time and time again, I've always picked Usman to lose, and time again, he proves me wrong, man. I think if he fights Colby, I think he wins. I think that he's not getting as much credit as he deserves as a champion. I mean, he's proved it. He's proved it. He can fight. He can do the big dogs. He's in there with anybody, right? I mean, he continues to defend his belt. He continues to dominate. I mean, there's nothing really left for him after Colby, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't know.
No, and that's exactly where I'm at, and that's why I asked it, because this is the problem, that I feel like UFC is kind of running into in multiple weight classes at this point, where you got a champion like Usman, or let's flip it to the female side, or like Amanda Nunes. I mean, at a certain point, you start running out of opponents. I wonder if that means he'll go up to 85 or exactly how that'll play out, but we're going to have to see.
They'll make some kind of big money fight out of him, I'm sure.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a lot left in the tank.
That would be the thing, in my opinion, that would pull him out of the division, because just even though he is a big boy for the division, he really is, he makes that weight, from what I've seen, fairly easily. So I think he's literally the perfect model 170. And to lean into the fight with him and Colby, even though I am a Colby Covington fan, I don't care for too much of what he does outside the cage, but what he does when he actually performs in front of the fans in the octagon. He's impressive as hell. I had him win in the first fight until he got finished. But with that being said, we've just seen an incremental improvement, like drastically, from Usman. It's been night and day, I feel like, his skill level on his stand-up game. And the first fight was all stand-up. Obviously, we didn't get to see him defend any of Colby's takedowns or anything like that, so that may end up changing some form of the outcome. But Usman won the first time, and not only that, I feel like he's the one that's improved his skills more, or at least we've got to see him on display. So I have to lean Usman on that 110%.
I'm going to say unanimous.
Yeah.
Gives him a unanimous.
I definitely got to go Usman, but I think he's going to finish him this time.
Think so?
Yeah.
I do, and here's why. Because that last win that he had over Gilbert Burns really stuck out to me more so than pretty much any of his other title defenses, for the simple fact that anyone who's ever watched Usman up until that point, his takedowns were what really got him there. He took guys down, he grinded them out, he beat them up.
Yep.
Okay, that's what it was. But in that fight, he not only got hurt and got back up, he looked beautiful with the punches he was throwing. You know, so like now he's pretty much made himself into a complete threat. And I think that's going to be what makes the biggest difference in that one. But time's only going to see what happens. You know, since we brought up that with Tyron Woodley, who are you picking out of him and Logan or Jake Paul?
I don't think I can pick Paul with and be okay with that. I have to pick Woodley. I have to. Just for the sake of MMA and the sake of the YouTuber, like I have to pick Woodley. I have to. If Woodley has any type of skill left in the, or like just any oomph in the tank, I think he has the skill that this should be an easy fight for him. It really should.
Do you think if Jake Paul gets knocked out that he just quits?
Best athletes in the world. It isn't just
I agree.
go away. It's still muscle memory. He's still got it.
Well, I agree. Well, do you think so? I'll pose this in two different ways. One, do you think if if Woodley goes in there and knocks Jake Paul on his ass, do you think Jake Paul, stops fighting?
No. I don't think they'll let him stop because he's bringing in too much money. There's no way. I'm not saying he's the crappiest boxer I've ever seen. I'm just saying that there should be a skill difference in between.
Oh, agreed.
That is so large that Woodley should not lose to him, nor should it go the distance.
I couldn't agree more.
Shouldn't and will
shouldn't.
Is such a different.
Yes,
it's such a different
shit that happens in this world.
And I mean, I hate to say it because it really does kind of pain me, but like Jake Paul's got some skills, man. As much shit as he talks, and
yeah, he's not horrible.
No,
he's got power. If there's nothing you can say, the guy's got power.
Yeah.
Yep. And it wasn't. It doesn't seem like that long ago that Woodley was knocking people out neither.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. I think the whole story to this whole fight is just going to be, how is Tyron Woodley's chin going to hold up?
Yes.
If his chin holds up, eventually I think he knocks Jake Paul out.
Yeah.
But if his chin is still suspect, if Jake Paul hits him, he could go night-night.
Yep, for sure.
What I feel the most is I enjoy the matchup. I'm glad that we're finally seeing somebody that's like a legitimate step. Granted, I said Ben Askren was going to beat him for the MMA community, but I was fucking worried as fuck because
I don't think anybody had confidence in Ben Askren.
No.
Well, Ben was never a good striker, and then the videos he was putting out didn't look good.
He couldn't even outstrike Damian Maia, not even close. He was getting his ass handed to him by Damian Maia on the feet. So I was worried. I was legitimately fucking worried. And this one, even though we've seen Tyron Woodley come through quite a few losses in the streak at this point, like you said, I think he's got fumes, at least something, man.
Yeah,
I guess like may have came on a fight or two ago, but fuck, man, come on.
If anything, he's got the experience, like being on the big stage. Like use that. Just fight smart. Pick your shots. I mean, there's no reason he shouldn't beat Jake Paul. There's no reason for it.
Yeah.
I'm in the same boat. Well, I got one more thing I got to ask you, since obviously it may not be in the same realm. As you know, we talk pro wrestling out here. I have just seen one of the craziest crowds, bar none, that I've seen in the last 5 to 10 years. Like, no bullshit. Like, these motherfuckers, bro. So, the Matt Cardona, who used to be Zack Ryder, went into GCW, took their belt after a death match, and then they were pelting them with every bottle, beer can, and anything that wasn't nailed down in the whole fucking place. It was one of the wildest crowds I've ever seen. So my question to you is, say you were in enemy territory, say you were, fighting hometown boy. Have you ever been at fights where some dumb shit like that's popped off? And if so, what are you doing? Because I watched that. They had to get security to get this dude out the front door because people were that pissed. He had to go out the front of the casino because they were literally like swarming around this dude.
I fought in a pretty hostile place one time, man. It was up in Akron. I fought for a place, I think it was Honor MMA. I mean, good promotion, but I mean that crowd was not welcoming at all. Like it was, like I had a couple friends in the crowd, and they told my friends like, if he wins, like we're gonna beat the shit out of you.
Wow.
Yeah, like they're like hiding by the door in case something goes wrong. Like we were definitely outnumbered. Like the whole crowd, it was the main event. The whole crowd was there for the guy I was fighting. So it was quite interesting. I don't know what would have happened if I would.
So how did that play out?
That's
I didn't
my
win.
fault.
Probably good for everybody that I didn't.
I'll take the L on this one, people. I'll take the L on this one.
But yeah, I don't know what I would do, man. I mean, people start pelting me with stuff. I'm gonna tell the promotion that I'm gonna need just a little bit more money.
Yeah, dude, it was wild, and it's interesting because Corey is gonna go on his first wrestling road trip with me here in a little over a month. We're headed to Chicago for AEW All Out, but I'm telling Corey that same promotion that we were just talking about, they might be running it back that Saturday that we're there in Chicago. I was like, dude, I feel like we need to go to this shit just to see what's gonna pop off. We got a whole thing planned, dude. We're gonna check out Wrigley. We're gonna be there for All Out. It's gonna be a good time. But yeah, dude, it was crazy to see a crowd like that. I think the worst I've ever seen happen at a fight that I was at was I was there with past guest of the show, Miles Jury, and they had him as a guest judge at XCC back in the day, which was one of the bigger promotions around here in Michigan. And we were live on Channel 20. And so, dude, I have this, and matter of fact, past guest of the show, if you guys are watching us, we just had Darren Cruikshank on the show last Tuesday, excuse me. He was the referee in the fight, and the guy got hit in the balls 3 times before Darren finally called the DQ. And then the guy all the fans started throwing beer and shit from the balcony, and this guy was like waiting outside the building trying to talk about he wanted to fight the promoter and like all this other stuff. Dude, that shit got a little hairy that night. I went home smelling like a lot of beer.
Sounds like a good night then.
I mean, smelling like, but it wasn't even like for the right reason though. Like, I mean, I was more so just like, shit, don't fuck. You know what I mean? Like, we're over here in a mosh pit at an MMA fight. Things got a little wild, but we've kept you here flapping our gums for quite a little while. We touched a lot of the different subjects. So before we get out of here, I guess the best question is, I mean, what do you think is going to make the biggest difference for you in this fight for LFA this weekend? And how do you see it? How do you see it playing out?
Big difference is, again, he hasn't fought nobody like me. And I'm talking about me, I mean experience, right? I've got more wins than I think, more wins than anybody he's fought as far as fights, like total. So, I'm definitely his biggest task that he's had to deal with yet. My prediction, 2nd round TKO. That's my prediction.
What makes you lean that way?
I think he's going to come out fast. He's going to come out strong. I'm going to be patient. I'm going to wear him out a little bit. And he's going to slowly start fading away. And I don't think he makes it through 10 minutes.
I like it.
I like it. That's what I want to hear. That's what we need to hear. That's why you need to be watching this shit Friday live on UFC Fight Pass. Donnie, it's a pleasure as always, brother man. Throw out your social media. Let everybody know where they can catch the fight and all those good things. And, dude, we're going to have to link up at one of these fights one of these days, dude. Shit.
Absolutely, man. I'll have a link on my my regular Facebook and then on my fan page, Donnie the Real Deal Ballou on Facebook. Get on my fan page. I'll put some updates on there once I get down in Texas. I'll have all the link for the UFC Fight Pass, all that stuff. The broadcast starts at 8 p.m. on Friday night.
Nice.
Yep. Shock the world. Time to wake up, America.
That's what I'm talking about. Wake up, America!
Time to wake
and
up,
make sure that you hit that subscribe button because this Thursday, it's about to get nasty up in this bitch. Bobby Nash is coming before he comes here to take that welterweight strap for XFC August 6th in Grand Rapids. And guess what? They're giving my ass a mic. So you need to watch the press conference. And until next time, and in the in-between time, peace.
See you guys. Thank you, guys.